Welcome to the Possibility Action Network podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Middleton, aka Possibility Man. We are committed to bringing you guests who strive to better people's lives and serve as a force for good in the world. Today, our guest is Julie Perret. She is a neuro-change practitioner and a transformational coach. She helps people examine their mindsets and align them with their values to produce happier, healthier lives at home, work, and play. Julie, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Stefan, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be at your podcast and share my knowledge and just share how I can help the others. It's really a pleasure to be at your podcast. Thank you.
It's one of my privileges, to tell you the truth. I talk with people from around the world, literally. In fact, I'm curious, and I'm sure others would be curious, what part of the planet are you in now?
So I'm in New Zealand.
New
So originally, because people might wonder about my accent, so originally I'm from Czech Republic, but I've been living in New Zealand for the last 16 years.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's fantastic. I've never been to New Zealand, but Australia, New Zealand, neighboring countries are on my list to go. So what was your previous profession before you got into what you're doing now?
I would say I was lost for 20 years. And I was working in admin accounts. Deep down, I knew it's not for me, but I didn't believe I can do something else. It was just the values that have been projected onto me, that's the only thing I can do. And I tried hard for 20 years to prove myself to be a good accountant, and I was a horrible accountant. I wasn't good. So basically, that's what I did. I was working in corporate environments, 9 to 5, doing accounts and administration for 20 years.
Okay. All right. But then you looked, when you made this transition, you might have peaked in some other areas, but ultimately you settled on neuro-change or the neurosciences and transformation. What made you look in that direction? Neuroscience, neuro-change, and transformation. Why this area?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I got very sick. For basically, since my daughter was born, I got really, really sick, and my desire was to heal myself. And somehow, I don't know how, when I was working in the corporate, I had a picture that I'm healing people, that I have my practice and I heal people. And I was always interested in psychology. And then basically just kind of, when I decided, when COVID struck, I decided, okay, I'm not going back. This opportunity for me just to go ahead and do. And I had no idea what I'm going to do, what I was doing. And just taking one step after the other, doing some personal development first, and then just stumbling across neuroscience, neuroplasticity, and brain. And it's just like my passion. That's how I found myself.
I see. So so the people will want to know. So I want to get clear on the terms. When you refer to neuro-change practitioner, what does that mean? And what does that involve?
So basically, the neuro-change practitioner, so the course and the accreditation that I got, that's based on the latest researches in mind and brain science, neuroscience, social psychology, sociology, and we've basically been lectured by the professors of American universities on psychology, on neuroscience. So this is why it's neuro-change method, because it involves neuroplasticity of your brain. It's basically learning about how your brain is changing through the neuroplasticity and how to use emotional intelligence as well, to master the emotional intelligence. So that's all, because neuroplasticity is basically reprogramming your central nervous system. This is what it is about. That's what subconscious mind is.
Okay, we'll get deeper into this as we continue our conversation. But before we get into that, I want to ask, what does transformational coach mean? And is this different from, let's say, life coach?
I would say yes, it is different, because there is a lot of coaches, and there is no right or wrong way. No one is good or bad. But transformational coaching starts with emotional intelligence, and there is a lot of coaches who don't understand emotions. And I do believe if you don't go deep enough yourself, you can't coach your clients. Like my first coach that I had, she was saying, if you feel unpleasant emotions, just go to sleep. And that's the worst thing you can do because you basically, your emotions trying to talk to you something and you just go and sleep. So they don't go away, they just stay. So the transformation starts from understanding emotions and what messages they are trying to tell you. It all starts from mastering emotional intelligence. So that's why just the strategies and the mindset, it's all good, but the emotional intelligence is the biggest part in it.
I got you. All right. So now I want to make a global sweep. I know that when we talk about healing, either emotionally or physically, that we're looking at, mind, body, and spirit. So can you just kind of take us through just briefly this nexus of mind, body, and spirit? Then I would like to segregate them and kind of look at one area at a time.
Yeah, so everything basically starts with the thought. We think a thought, then our brain sees the thought, it produces the chemical, which is the emotion, and that emotion travels through the autonomic nervous system to your body. So this is the mind, body, and spirit. So, and the brain as well. So the brain, basically we're using our mind. Our mind is using the brain to generate the molecules of emotions to override the system. And that's when you, for example, just think positive thoughts, like you have a lot of positive people and positive coaches, just think positively and everything's going to be fine. And that's where it's a trap here, because if you're going to think positive thought, like everything is good, everything is rosy, you just think positively, but your brain is always communicating and checking with your body. So brain is going to check with the body, and your heart is going to send incoherent messages saying like, oh no, it's not fine. I feel fear. I'm feeling unworthy. I'm feeling scared, disappointed. Then that positive thought is just not going to make its way through the brain stem to central nervous system, and everything in your neurobiology, neurocircuitry, neurochemistry, hormone level stays the same. So basically nothing is changing. So positive thought is just futile without the elevated emotions, without opening your heart.
I see. So I want to look at emotional health or mental health for just a moment. As you work in the world and work with clients, either privately or in industry, would you say that emotional well-being or mental health is a big problem that you see in the world and in your practice?
Yeah, a lot. I work a lot with people in leadership positions, and what I stumble across, it's the same recurring problem. So the global pandemic, we have COVID. I don't call it global pandemic. The global pandemic for me, in my experience working with clients, is I am not enough. And everyone is experienced that. And then on the top of it is just, I don't have time. So it's like, I'm waking up in the morning, and what can I do not to start to think straight away about the angry boss, the demanding spouse, the challenging children? Because usually what I find, people, when they wake up, they activate the same neural circuits in their brain, so they are not present. They straight away start to think about the past, about angry boss and what this angry boss is going to do at work, about challenging children and how it's going to go today. So basically they are connecting to these emotions of the past, and they are making the decisions based on that emotions on the past. So they are never in the present.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, I find that very interesting, because you work with professionals, you work with, housewives, you work with general laborers. And what you just said was that a lot of people face, let's call it this thought, that I am not enough. So I don't want to put words in your mouth. So I want to ask the question, do you find that, even college educated individuals or professionals may also be stricken with this thought, I'm not enough?
Yeah, it's going to be hidden somewhere, but somewhere it's just like it's hidden. They're going to, you have people, I've been working with people that earn a lot of money and achieved a lot in career, but there is going to be still rooted thought somewhere, I am not enough. And then whatever they want, either it's their relationship or their career or their health, it's not going to manifest because there is this emotion that is blocking it. I'm not enough. Because if you can't express yourself fully, speaking your truth, you basically can't live to your full potential. You are not using potential in your brain. But basically what happens on the brain level, if we have this unpleasant emotions, so it shuts down our prefrontal cortex, which is 40%, and that's our creative brain, that's our intellect, and it just opens the amygdala, which is fight or flight. And then we're just getting stuck, I want to fix that, but I can't. I feel helplessness. I'm not worthy. I want to fix it. I can't. I want to fix it. I can't. And we just try harder and harder instead of looking, where is it coming from? Because usually it all links, I'm not enough.
Yeah. Some people have trouble understanding that a person could be, and maybe this group doesn't fit into this category, but a person could be, let's say, a judge, in any country in the world. Or a person could be a successful business person. But from what you've said is that individual may still be stricken with this thought, I'm not enough. Is that about right?
Yeah. So it's basically, there is a lot of, if you look at the successful people majority of people fall in that society trap of success. I need to get something over there that will make me feel happy. And they just run after things because they think that emptiness that they have inside is that thing outside, whatever they want, bigger salary, bigger title, whatever it is, that is going to make them feel happier, and it never happens. So that's basically on the road all the time, getting more and more and more and more. And that's going back to feeling of emptiness. I'm not enough. I'm comparing myself to someone because I perceive that they have something that I don't. Which in reality, like, we all have everything that we need inside of us. We are just not aware of it. And it goes to the childhood beliefs. And as a children, we create story in a different ways because children perceive world very different to adults. So even if they have nice parents, like a little silly event can happen and they're going to create in their brain something completely different. Like there is like some incredible stories like from childhood what people create, and then when they break, they're just like, oh wow.
Yeah, I find that fascinating. And I see that, I guess, among the top 3 richest men in the world. The billionaires, multimillionaires, the billionaires. These guys are fighting for the #1 slot. I think we've had a change recently. So even at that level, people could be looking for more. Yeah.
They're looking for more, or they are, there is fear of losing. So some billionaires are going to have billions and billions of dollars, but they are not going to enjoy them because there is going to be fear of losing. Right. And that again, that fear of losing is coming because somewhere they feel empty. Somewhere there's going to be this energy of emptiness, and usually it all ties somewhere, somehow, like, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not intelligent enough, I'm not worthy enough. It's absolutely silly, like the human psyche, like I had all of it as well. I wasn't enough. I have to go deep and work on it. And yeah.
So you mentioned fight or flight, and many of us have heard of that, but I'm not sure, how many of us understand what that means. Can you help us understand, what do you mean by fight or flight, and how does that show up in a person's life and the repercussions of that?
Yeah, I think the easiest way it would be like, so it triggers the stress. And so what is the stress? Stress, it's like, if you can't predict the outcome of your future, you can't predict it, you're feeling that you're losing control. Try to control things on the outside, not understanding that everything is reflected from the inside. So you activate this primitive sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight. And that system in the brain, basically, it doesn't understand, it just understands it's like animalistic. If you need to run from predator, so your brain is going to send to the body hormones of cortisol and adrenaline for you to prepare body to run and fight. That's how primitive it is. But in today's days, you run from your workload, and you can't run from your workload. You may run from your husband, and you can't really. You might run from your chores you have to do at home, and you can't. And it puts you on this fight or flight, run, fight, and hide. So basically, you shut down your neocortex. That's your executive brain, your thinking brain, and you activate just this. Your brain just wants you to really fight, run, and hide. That's all it does. So you don't think, you narrow your focus, how much time I have to do that, and then you run out of time because you focus just on time, how much money I have, and then you run out of money because you perceive there is never enough, because your neocortex is shut down, your heart is shut down. Basically, when you open your heart, that's this elevated emotions of gratitude, of joy, inspiration, empowerment. It's been actually, studies has been done, and they took a group of 10 people and they just put them together and I just told them, okay, now you sit here for 10 minutes and you practice elevated emotions of the heart for 10 minutes, which is joy, inspiration, fulfillment, presence, gratitude. And so these people been practicing that, and they've been taking this brain scans. And after, on the brain scan, it has been shown that fight and flight, this amygdala primitive brain that makes you only fight, run and hide, it's been shut down, and your neocortex has been open. So that means the right side of the brain starts to communicate with the left side of the brain. So all your intellect and knowledge now is coming together, and you start to get insights, you start to get inspirational thoughts, and there is no fear, because only emotional love can override the fear. So then you go and you do things. You're not scared to fail. You know, it's a belief. It's a belief that everything is available to you. So if one door is going to shut, the other one is going to open, because you have emotional strength, how to deal with things even when they don't go your way.
Okay, so I'm gathering that this is both fight or flight, for example, again, is emotional, and it's also physical or biological. Here's an example I want you to evaluate for me. I grew up in the country, and I can distinctly remember walking down the road and would see something in the road, could be some sticks or a rope or whatever, and there was a body feeling that it was a snake, and I felt it physically, and I felt it emotionally. Is that about what you're talking about?
That's exactly that. So, you know, in your brain, basically you activate the neurocircuitry from the past. You read somewhere snakes are bad, it's danger. And it's right away, you think this thought, the brain checks its body, our body feels fear, let's just send more hormones of cortisol so the body can run, fight, because the brain perceives there is a danger, and you need to save yourself. So this is exactly what happens. We just right away activate this neurocircuits in our brain from the past.
Okay. So in the case of my example, then, if I continue to walk, and once I see that the rope or the sticks, did not represent a snake, then my body can settle down, and I could be okay. But what if a person then is in this heightened arousal state, fight or flight, and then never settle down? What are some of the things that may happen to a person in that constant state of fight or flight?
And that's where all the disease, all the autoimmune conditions, because if you are sympathetic, so sympathetic and parasympathetic system, sympathetic is fight or flight, and parasympathetic is rest and digest. So if they're out of balance, then your body is out of homeostatic state. And if you continue doing it, that you suppress your immune system. So all of these autoimmune conditions, I had 3 of them. There's all of these autoimmune conditions, cancers, it's been actually studies has been done on that only 2% of disease are genetic, and the rest is created by the environment. And what is the environment? Because if I'm going to talk a little bit about epigenetics, so the environment signals the gene, and then gene is giving instructions to the cell to produce the protein, but that's the environment that signals the gene. So is your environment toxic, or is your environment coming from love and inspiration? And it's not like that you're never going to feel those emotions. See, the emotions here to be felt because they carry the message, but it's understanding emotion is within 90 seconds, the emotion is going to be released from the bloodstream. And once this emotion is released, now you can invite this new emotion, elevated emotion of the heart. But if you suppress and repress them, you don't look at the messages, what they try to tell you, that's when basically everything goes just haywire. Emotion has to get out. Emotion is energy in motion. It's going to come out one way or the other. It's going to find, and then you react to people, then you might smack someone, or or you drink a bottle of wine, or everyone is just find different coping mechanisms. So someone just overworking, someone just overeating and chocolate. That's all the suppressed and repressed emotions.
Wow, there's several questions that I have from what you've just shared, but I'm still like stunned because you said you gave a percentage of the number of diseases that may be related to gene. Was that 2%?
Yeah, 2%. Yeah,
wow.
It's been true. It's been proven by neuroscience. Only 2% of disease are genetic. That just, you've been born with the condition. The rest is literally product of the environment.
Yeah, well, that statement has some good news in it, because a person can actually make some changes, right, to improve their emotional health and their physical health, since the genes are not determinative in every situation.
I think if people really understand that every time they repeat these toxic thoughts and emotions, that it affected their genes, if they understand that deep into their core, they would be more aware of what they are doing. Because sometimes people, they're just not even aware, because they've been behaving this way for 40 years, that it's normal to them. They're not even consciously aware of what they are doing. And then, like in today's society, okay, let's go and get a pill. I'm now I have a label, I'm depressed, so I'm just going to keep taking the pills. But the thing is with the pills, I mean, you're going to take it for depression, and it's going to throw out some others, part of your body. So then you end up with box of pills.
Yeah. I want to try this analogy, and tell me if I'm not going to be embarrassed if you say it's not a good analogy. I'm okay with that. But let's say that a person has a scab or cut on their hand, and they don't cover it, it's exposed, and just keep scratching it and poking it, and it never heals. So the problem isn't that healing doesn't want to happen, but the healing isn't happening because the wound is continuously being agitated. Does that make sense to you, and does it apply to what you're sharing now?
Yeah, that's exactly that. So that's our body has its ability to heal itself, but it's exactly like you say. I say it in a kind of similar example. So, for example, if you cut your finger and your finger is almost falling apart, obviously you're going to go and do something. You're just going to put like a plaster around it, and you're going to pay attention that you're not going to do it next time because it hurts. And it's exactly the same with the emotions. So if you feel like not in your stomach, or butterflies in your stomach, or not in your throat, and you just ignoring it and going and eating or working cleaning, it would be the same. If your finger is bleeding, it would be, you're going to be okay. Nothing will happen. Just going to be fine. So this is exactly the same with the emotions. And that's those emotions which are suppressed and repressed, like one psychologist said, that suppressed and repressed emotions, if you don't express them, they will cause other organs to weep. And this is what happened to me with 3 autoimmune conditions. I had 3 of them. I never touched drugs, and they're all gone.
Okay. Wow. And I want to come back to your experience with some chronic conditions in a moment. But I want to stay with this notion of emotional health, mental health, and ask you, from your practice and work with people all over the world, what would you say are some of the common sources of not only stress, but also distress?
The one is going to be, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not worthy enough, and lack of purpose. But it's all again, the lack of purpose, like, what is my purpose, what I should be doing that, like, I know that I should be doing something more, but I can't, there is not enough money, there is not enough time. And it's just, that's basically what is causing all of that. That's from my experience, like working with the clients that I'm working. It's lack of purpose is going to be the big one as well. But it's going again to the belief, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy enough, like who I am to do that, or who I am to say that. So there is someone has bigger degree than I have. So how I can speak even to that person because they have bigger degree. So it's basically embodying the belief that you are enough and that you are lovable and that everything's available to you. And that's balancing perceptions. balancing, embracing both sides of life, embracing who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. So would you say that anxiety and depression are major problems in health culture around the world? Or would you say that it's, not so big of a problem?
It is obviously a big problem because everyone is labeled with anxiety and depression. But if you look at the depression it's lack of purpose, lack of connection. This is the main things that causing depression. Wow. So that it's simple, it's so simple, but not easy because we don't understand. And once we receive, if you go to the doctor and you surrender to what doctors say, so they say, okay, now you have a label, you are depressed. Here is the pill is going to heal you. Right. You surrender to it, you believe in it. Now you believe that you are depressed, which is just because lack of purpose has been proven. Actually, if you are not living purposeful life, if you are not waking up and not going to do what you are doing with love and joy, that causing depression, because our soul always wants to grow. It's seeking for more, and you are kind of basically telling it, no, this is just, I can't do more, I'm not worthy. So you disconnect. You're just trying harder, you completely disconnect from your true self, from your heart, and you're just trying harder and harder to get what you perceive that you are missing, which in reality is anything.
Yeah. I think I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think I get it, because if a person truly feels loved and appreciated and capable, in that moment, they probably aren't depressed,
Yeah, so, that's exactly that. And see, like the main needs the children need, it's love, connection, safety, and being praised. Yeah. And majority of people not going to get all of these needs fulfilled when they're children, because it's not because their parents are bad, but basically their parents didn't get their needs fulfilled because they didn't know how. It's conscious, it's awareness. So their parents tried the best they could with their level of awareness, but this is why it's just now such a big like pandemic, because we live in a modern world, but our emotional mind is still somewhere, even in cave age. And there is like this big gap.
Yeah, now, I'm just wondering about all of this. It just makes me think about people acting out, children at school. In my area, a kid was acting out, and the way he was dealing with another person, a very violent way. On the job, people act out in other ways, name calling, those kinds of things. So acting out is probably a symptom of something, isn't it? It's not,
It's exactly like you said. Yeah, it's a symptom. See, there's basically those unpleasant emotions that we feel in our body and we ignore. They try to get us back to the present moment. So we pay attention because they tell us the message. And with children, it's like, so children from age of 2 to age of 6, they are in theta brain waves, which are very slow brain waves. Whatever you tell them, they don't have analytical minds, and everything goes straight into their subconscious, in their emotional mind. And then from age of 6 to 11, they move to alpha brain waves, which are still very similar, slow brain waves. So then if this child doesn't feel connection, love, if maybe child just perceives, because, sometimes parents just are busy, they have to go to work, they have to provide, and they come back home, they are angry, they don't have enough money, they complain, how I'm going to pay the bill, how I'm going to do that and that. And this child, everything goes in there. And now everyone just has a different way of dealing with it. So some children going to express their anger because they are not feeling love enough. Because if you love yourself, if you're feeling enough, you're not going to do that.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah. I can imagine that if you feel love, that you're not going to walk up to someone and then just hurt them. If you feel love yourself, Let me ask you this, Julie, just before I forget. So we've been talking about, stress and anxiety and depression. So do guilt, forgiveness, and compassion figure in to those conditions we've been talking about, stress, anxiety, depression? Do they figure in at all? And if so, share with us about that.
They do fit. So it's basically like you can have the memory of your past, but without emotional attachment. So you keep the memory to tell a story, and memory without emotion is a wisdom. So we keep the memory to tell the story, maybe to help someone, but you let go of that emotional baggage from the past. That emotion, because it's psychological, every psychologist says, and neuroscientist, that it's never about the event. I mean, you can have horrible events. We had people like that have been abused and the horrible things were happening in their life. But it's about the story that we create. And then what happens basically, because your brain is changing all the time, so your brain now is not even the same that it was months ago. So you basically lie to yourself because you rehearse that story over and over again. It's not the same story because your brain already changed. But you are still keep rehearsing those emotions. And so this is like, it's not about the event. And that's when you have compassion. You can develop compassion to people who hurt you because they are not aware of themselves. They don't love themselves. They never loved themselves. They don't understand how to do that. So then obviously they couldn't even treat you differently. But then if you reframe the belief, okay, I'm not a child anymore. I'm not my past. How do I want to be? How do I want to feel? What do I want to create an experience in my life? And obviously no one wants to be stuck and depressed and sick. So when you understand that you let go of the ego, you can say, because your ego is going to be, no, you need to prove something to someone. There is nothing to prove. You just connect to your true self, to love, and you just realize, that you just want to live and experience life. That was just the journey. That's just evolving. That's how we learn. That's how we evolve. That's life.
That's amazing. And speaking of telling a story, I mean, I get what you're saying, because I think you said it's like you can tell a story in service of another, and you can tell the same story and make it painful for yourself. And there's a difference in the two, isn't there?
There's a big difference, because our mind is conditioned to take us all the time to what is familiar. So it always takes us like to play the victim. Oh, look what happened to you, and how sad you are. And you just kind of, I've been doing that a lot because like from my dad, I didn't experience any. So he was physically present, but it was no love, no connection, no safety, no praise, nothing from my dad. I received probably double from my mom, but nothing from my dad. And that created havoc in my life for 40 years. So, and this is how you just go back and we kind of feel sorry for ourselves. And there's no one to feel sorry about, once you let it go. You are grateful. I'm grateful for everything that happened in my life because it got me to where I am now.
Wow.
And that's just, it's such a feeling of love that it's a school, it's like understanding life is a school. So maybe you've been born to the family that wasn't very nice to you, but it was just a learning process for you to strengthen your emotions and create the life that you want to create coming from the heart.
That sounds like a wonderful armor to wear, to be grateful for all of your life experiences, as you put it, because they brought me to where I am now. Wow, that's very different. That's very different,
That's just a peace of mind, and it's just understanding that you can choose. That I am choosing. I have a choice. I don't need to be stuck with my past. Whatever happens doesn't matter. What happened. It's just like everyone has a story to tell. We all have stories to tell.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And that's good news for people who are listening or watching. Your past, just like your genes, are not determinative on who you are today. So that's good news for sure. So I want to move on to, and I know they're all connected, as we said before, mind, body, and spirit, but I want to look at physical or body health for just a moment. Now, earlier, I think you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you had healed your body. Is that right? Or did I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you care to share with us just a snippet of that?
Yeah. So I had 3 autoimmune conditions. I had rheumatoid arthritis, then I had iritis, I had also Crohn's disease. I think I had and it was just going worse and worse. And I, like majority of people, I spent so much time, energy, and money on trying to fix my body from outside, on diets, vitamin supplements. And I mean, it just kept it kind of pain under control. So the pain wasn't getting worse, but every time something else was coming, something else. And I was just like, got absolutely lost in it. And that's when I started to study. And that's when I cleared those emotional baggages. That's this emotion of, I had a lot of anger. I didn't know it. See, consciously, we don't know. Consciously, I thought I'm okay with my dad. I'm okay with everything that happened. But subconsciously, I didn't. And that's what we are not aware of. And once I cleaned that, then I looked at my kitchen and I actually found, why do I take these vitamins? They don't do anything to me. And I just stopped taking everything because actually I never needed them. But it's how, again, it's understanding the values, and it's how we run out of money because we don't understand our values. We just spend money, we buy things because we think they're going to make us happy. But it's not true. And it's just like going into the vicious circle, trying to heal our body, trying to make us feel better, complaining that we don't have money, complaining about that, which everything starts from opening the heart and understanding your emotions.
Wow. Yeah. And I can imagine, Julie, that a person could be carrying emotional baggage innocently. That is, they're unaware that it's a baggage, and they're unaware that this baggage, this weight, is hurting their body. So I can imagine that happening. Yeah.
That's exactly that. Like, I am going to share. So I had a lot of defensive behavior, and some people would tell me, why you think that someone is attacking you? Someone is attacking you here. And I was just like, yeah, whatever, because I didn't understand. And so when I started to study, because my dad was expressing a lot of anger at me. So basically, when I was little, 7, 6, 8, I created a story in my mind that I need to be quiet, invisible, because otherwise I'm going to be hurt. And now if someone outside, we are 20, 30, 40, and someone outside is going to trigger that emotion that you feel threatened, because they said something just unconsciously, it triggers in you that emotion, and you start to straight away engage in this defensive behavior, because this is what your subconscious mind is doing without you consciously realizing it.
Yeah.
So this is how we form our behaviors, basically. Overeating, it's exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah, that could happen very easily, for sure. So, so feeling that you're okay, feeling that you are okay, is a job that a person can do for himself, in my case, or or herself, and it's an inside job. And if you can do that, or find someone to help you do that, then the outside world may not affect you as much to produce, a lot of conditions.
Yes. That's exactly that. And that's paying attention. So it's being aware of your bodily, emotional, based sensations. Like awareness. So, okay, so now I feel maybe there is a, like a heaviness in my chest, or maybe there is a knot in my throat. And that means, okay, now I feel that. So where do I perceive that I'm lacking something? You just sit with it. You don't judge it. You just sit with it and you just ask the question. And within 90 seconds, you will receive the answer, and also that emotion is going to be released. So you don't need to go and eat a bar of chocolate or take a bottle of wine, You just sit with it. And now when that emotion is released, now you ask yourself, okay, so how do I want to feel about that situation now? And working like these people in leadership position, when they change sometimes, it works actually very often. When they change, for example, their thinking, rehearsal about their boss and kind of, of what he's going to do again today to me. So when they change that to feeling of compassion and how I want him to respond to me, their response changes, because people reflect to us back our behavior. So you don't need to change anyone. You just need to change yourself. That doesn't mean that you're going to love everyone, but you just feel compassion, and you feel that you are worthy, you are lovable, and then their behavior changes.
That's really awesome. So now I want to shift a little bit to the tools of your trade, some of the tools that you work with. The first thing that I want to start with is mind and brain science. I think that shows up in your profile. What's that about? Mind and brain science.
Brain science. So you can use your conscious mind. You use your conscious mind to use your brain to override the molecules of emotions. So what I mean by that, just a simple example. We all have choices that we don't like to do, for example, So I do what I love to do, but there are still things like, I have to do the cleaning and the washing and all these other things. And I'm going to say, oh, I have to do it. I have to do it. I don't want to do it, but I have to do it. And as soon as you say, I have to do it, you put yourself into this lower vibrations and you drag yourself and you drag your time, you do it longer. As soon as you can use your mind, and it doesn't matter if you love it or you don't love it, you just say, okay, I love to do it because I'm going to have a clean clothes after. You know, I love going shopping, even if there is a queue, doesn't matter because I'm going to have a healthy food. And what you will find, what I found on myself, that you will do it quicker in less time, and you will have more time left. So that's basically how you use, that's a mind and brain science. It's basically this, a lot of things. And you use in your mind to say, you know, I choose to feel this way. I choose to do that. I choose to feel great about it. Yeah. I am lovable. That's basically how you use your mind. Now is going to use the brain to create a different molecule of emotions. So your brain is going to release the chemicals of serotonin and oxytocin, and it's going to start to override your central nervous system.
Wow.
So it's not pretending, but it's like, it's not pretending. Some people might say, oh, it's pretending and everything is wrong. No, I had a client, and so there was two clients. So one client was saying, oh, I can't cope with anything, you know, everything is horrible, everything is horrible, I can't cope, my husband, I've got mess in the house, kids are horrible. And then we went into the beliefs, and it was, her mom used to do the same, you know, saying like, I can't cope, and I can't cope, life is hard. So she got this belief from her mom. So she was repeating exactly the same. Yeah. And when she reframed it, not saying, you know, that everything is rosy, but yes, my children are challenging, you know, my boss is challenging, but I have phenomenal coping skills.
Wow.
I can deal with that. Straight away, when you say that word, you know, I have phenomenal coping skills, I have extraordinary coping skills. Then you activate this prefrontal cortex and you start to feel differently. That's why it's not about the event. I mean, your children are still going to be challenging, and, you know, your husband from time to time can be challenging, but you change with the words you are using, you are changing the emotional reaction in your body, and then you act differently. And then I had another client, and I suggested the same, and she said she's not into mindset. Well, you know.
Yeah, I just had the thought as you were talking, I could see how certain things could become like generational in a family. But it also occurred to me that if one person breaks the chain, then that person's lineage could have a different experience of life, you know, because they've just broken it.
That's right, because every word we say, we don't realize, like some people going to say horrible words to themselves. That's a cause of depression as well. It's self-critique. It's another cause of depression. And every word we say is causing neurological and biological reaction in your body without you probably even realizing that. Yeah. If you're going to say I'm stupid, then that's how your body is going to feel, you know, based on face or whatever, you know, people call themselves sometimes.
Yeah, that's great. I just so many things that occurred to me, like, you know, we have a smart body in a sense. You mentioned earlier about if you cut, then it heals. We also have a smart emotional immune system. If you settle down a little bit, then your mind makes its adjustment. I just find this fascinating. But I want to continue on with the tools of the trade. The second phrase I came across that made me pause. It's like, well, what is that? When I looked you up, and that is zone of genius. What are you telling us about that zone of genius?
So that's, if you look at the cells, every cell has like family identity receptors that differentiate one person from another. So there is no need to compare yourself with anyone, no need to compete with anyone, because you have that zone of genius inside of you. It's already there. But again, you need to go to your beliefs, to your emotions, and let that go to bring that zone of genius up to the surface. And it's not like, you know, we have in this today's word multitasking. Multitasking is actually a myth, because if you multitask, you don't focus on anything. Right. So basically the zone of genius, it's kind of looking at it and saying, okay, so this thing is permanent. Is it only me that I can do it, or can I delegate it and give it to someone else so they will do it? And then you basically end up only with the things that you are great at, because you more expand in your zone of genius. And if you run a business, your business will be run more smoothly because you are just doing things that you love and you're giving opportunity to the others to do what they love to do. So you're not trying to control things.
Yeah.
You're just working in your zone of genius. And that's basically, when you do that, you just will find that, you have more time that even you need. Because we try to do everything, like people try to do everything and they just try to force and that's when they run out of time. Like with leaders, especially in leadership positions, it's always the problem. I don't have time. I don't have time. I receive calls at 10 o'clock at 10 o'clock at night. I don't have time. But that's when it goes back to the values, because that's what your zone of genius is. What are your values? Because if you live with your values, congruent with your values, then you know how to set the boundaries.
Yeah.
That's big problem.
Yeah. I mean, I love it because, wow, what I hear, and correct me if this is not exactly what you shared here, there's a lot, but one thing I heard was that, someone can look at you and say, I'm not like Julie Perret, I'm not this neuro coach, that kind of thing, and overlook their own zone of genius that's within them.
It's within them. It's just a thought. Just because they have a thought, it's not. It might not be true. Where the thought. And again, there's a question. So where the thought is coming from? Who told you that? I wasn't a neuro-change practitioner. 3 years ago. I was like everyone else. I was just stuck.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Man, I could see that. I'm thinking about children in school these days, because I just know some of the things that can happen to children in school because they just don't know. No one tells them. But I could see how their consciousness could rise if they just knew that they had talent just like everybody else.
Yeah. That's right. And that's why, like the marks at school, they're just it's not right, because if they are stressed about something, they might not even have a good marks, and now there is a competition, or this one has that and I don't, so I perceive already that they have something I don't have. I feel separation, and then it comes to the I'm not enough. There is one world-known therapist, and she's actually teaching that I'm not enough, and she was saying that when she introduced that to schools, that straight away results at schools in children just improved so much.
And I guess you got to be so careful, and a kid cannot decipher all of this, because the kid may have a teacher or teachers who feel that they're not enough, so they put it on the kid that you're not enough.
But it's like a domino effect. There is one child, so the parents had a problem with the child, so they had a newborn baby, and the 6-year-old boy was always beating the little baby, and they couldn't figure out why, and they were scared that the boy is going to kill the baby, and they've seen psychologists, therapists, and nothing was working. And then that little boy, actually, the boy was asked, so why you are beating the sister? And the boy said, because my parents told me when sister is going to be born, she's going to play with me. So see how children just create their story. So basically parents forgot to add when girl is going to be older. So in his little mind, he just perceived that soon she's going to be born, she's going to play soccer with him. And now she's baby and she's not playing, so he's getting angry.
Wow. Yeah.
That wasn't, if it wasn't understood and spoken, that anger would build up. Like you would think it's a silly thing, but that anger would build up. And now when he understood it, and it was explained to him, okay, she's going to play with you, we forgot to tell you when she's going to be older, he stopped beating his sister. He started loving her.
Wow. Yeah, well, we've been talking about mindfulness and awareness, in a sense throughout this conversation, but that's one of your tools, the tools in your wheelhouse. Can you tell us a little bit, and I bring this up because I'm happy today to see that there's some medical doctors who are incorporating mindfulness in their practice.
That's great. Yeah, I love these doctors.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about, your take on mindfulness and awareness and the benefits of them?
It's absolutely, it's amazing. You feel light. And you feel that feeling, that things are not going your way, that you're not alone, that you have this power, higher power that is always with you. And that doesn't mean that you sit on the couch and do nothing. No, to some people, but it means that you just take action. You are not scared of rejection because okay, there is another one and another one. So you take like think about it like a baby. That's how I feel. I take one step, and if I fall, I don't say, I'm not destined to walk because I fall today so many times and it was so painful. The baby just gets up and walks again.
Yeah.
And that's what mindfulness is. So if you wake up in the morning and instead of getting straight away on your phone and checking, Instagram and Facebook, you start and thinking about what your boss is going to throw on you again. You just this 10, 15 minutes, whatever you do, if you go for a walk or if you just do meditation, but you just disconnect and just start to feel, okay, so what do I want to experience today? So that's being present.
Yeah.
Because when you wake up, there is no boss, there is no, maybe screaming kids, they might be still asleep when you wake up early enough. So there is no one, it's just you and your heart.
Yeah.
And that if you practice it just comes with the practice, because the brain learns by experience and repetition. That's how you prove new synaptic connections. So you need to practice. Wow. There's a trick. You need to practice. You don't do it once and twice and think everything will change. Like it's not a magic.
That's beautiful, because what you're saying, we can learn new skills. We can learn a better way. It may not be magic, but stick with it. We can grow just like a baby learning to walk. I think that's awesome. Well, Julie, I've asked you several questions already, but is there anything you care to share with us that I have not asked you to touch upon today?
No, I think we talked about a lot, and I think the only thing, like, if people want to start to build new neural circuits, new ways of feeling and being, it really starts in the morning, and that's what I work a lot with my clients in. When you start in the morning, you start to think straight away about all the things that's going to happen. Bad things are going to happen, what happened yesterday or 2 days ago, you expect them. So if you set this 10 minutes, 15 minutes in the morning, but do it every morning, it's a habit. If you create that habit, your brain, you will kind of, it's a comparison. So when you will start to see how you feel, you will want to do it more and more. Yeah. And just this connection to coming from your heart, we all know in our heart what we want. And asking yourself, how do I want to be with my boss today? Not how I want my boss to be with me today, but how I want to be with my boss today.
Wow.
Because that boss, he probably going through the same thing as you are going, he's got his insecurities, and maybe he's going through divorce, or whatever is going in his life. Yeah. But it's not your business. Just think how you want to be with your boss.
That's fantastic. I love it.
Or your wife, the same is, how do I want to be with my wife today? Not that she was angry at me yesterday because I left socks in the living room. But how do I want to be with her today? And that's why you change yourself, and the world around you will change. And that's just the practice balancing the perceptions. It's not minimizing yourself. It's not about that. You still can say it's about practicing the emotional intelligence. So if you're feeling hurt, you say, okay, I'm hurt. That hurt me. I feel hurt. I am hurt.
That's fantastic. I love it. And this is why it just gratifies me to be able to talk with people like you. So
it's my pleasure too. And the same when you go to bed. Before you go to bed, ask yourself, so how did I do today? Without judgment. There's no judgment. Yeah. Just how did I do today, and what can I do better tomorrow? Right. Where did I went out of track? What are those triggers that triggered me again and I fall into the trap? Because if you're going to do meditation in the morning and then you're going to get up and for another 15 hours you're going to react, and there's no point to do meditation.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you've been listening to or watching the Possibility Action Network podcast. Our guest today has been Julie Perret, a neuro-change practitioner and a transformational coach. I'm your host, Stephen Middleton. Until next time, good day